of the new GST reforms, which start from 12 p.m. tonight. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the nation and speaks about the big GST Mahotsav. He says that this is about Bachat Utsav, which will be celebrated across the country. First, the direct tax reduction in income tax, which came during the budget, and now the indirect tax reduction, which is coming in through the GST. This is double bonanza. He also spoke about the need for promoting Make in India, the need for swadeshi, the need for vocal for local. So as the next generation GST reforms start, the Prime Minister's address to the nation becomes critical. He has spoken about self-reliance as he speaks about how this will be impacting the lives of the Aam Aadmi, the life of a businessman, how it is needed that the daily products, the products that we use on a daily basis, that will see a significant reduction. That is what the Prime Minister spoke about. He said India is moving in the direction of the double bonanza, spoke about how this will address India's growth story. He says that India's growth story will be accelerated, and he has also made a special request to the MSMEs, the crucial medium and small enterprises who he said will play an important role in the Make in India and how it will be going ahead. So Nagrik Devo Bhava is the message coming in from the Prime Minister, Aishwarya, as Prime Minister says that it is double bonanza. First, the direct tax, which came into effect during the budget announcement of Finance Minister in the month of March, and now the indirect tax, which will be coming into effect with the GST slab cuts.
Well, definitely, we are now seeing how it's a direct message being given, Maria, by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also asking the people to make sure that they reap the benefits of what has been done, and also in a very subtle manner has given a message to corporate India saying that you are also needed. We are all working towards Viksit Bharat. We are all working towards making sure that things become much cheaper. The people have more money in their hands, but you also need to do your bit. You also need to do your part. Also, he flipped through the history pages, Maria, and spoke about what it used to be before 2014, specifically speaking about the article when companies actually wanted tax relief. And now he's saying that this is exactly what the government also has been working towards over the past many years. And this indeed is a fact. We have seen how the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also has been speaking about the fact that the core ideology of the BJP, and that is something that the Finance Ministry also works upon, is the fact to give as much benefit to the common man as possible. Industries also were speaking about the fact that simplification of GST is something that is required, and that is exactly what has been done. Simplification of GST. Now this will have a multifold effect, which we will see a domino impact, if I may use the word, is something that we will see in months to come. But yes, this definitely is Diwali coming early for all the Indians. Maria.
So the Prime Minister says that this is GST Utsav, which will begin now. He also says that this will boost investment and increase savings and happiness. This will accelerate India's growth story. Let's listen in to the Prime Minister again, and then I bring in the guests.
जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदलने की और एक नया इतिहास रचने की शुरुआत हुई थी। दशकों तक हमारे देश की जनता, आप सभी लोग, देश के व्यापारी अलग अलग टैक्स के जाल में उलझे हुए थे। ऑक्ट्रॉय, एंट्री टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, एक्साइज, वेट, सर्विस टैक्स, न जाने भांति भांति के दर्जनों टैक्स हमारे देश में थे। एक शहर से दूसरे शहर माल भेजना हो तो न जाने कितने चेकपोस्ट पार करने होते थे, कितने ही फॉर्म भरने पड़ते थे, कितनी सारी रुकावटें थी। हर जगह टैक्स के अलग अलग नियम थे। तब ऐसी लाखों कंपनियों को, लाखों करोड़ों देशवासियों को अलग अलग तरह के टैक्स के जाल की वजह से हर रोज परेशानी होती थी। सामान को एक शहर से दूसरे शहर पहुंचने के बीच जो खर्च बढ़ता था वो भी गरीब को उठाना पड़ता था। आप जैसे ग्राहकों से वसूला जाता था। साथियों, देश को इस स्थिति से निकालना बहुत जरूरी था। इसलिए जब आपने हमें 2014 में अवसर दिया तो हमने जनहित में, देशहित में जीएसटी को अपनी प्राथमिकता बनाया। हमने हर स्टेक होल्डर से चर्चा की। हमने हर राज्यों की हर शंका का निवारण किया, हर सवाल का समाधान खोजा। सभी राज्यों को, सबको साथ लेकर आजाद भारत का इतना बड़ा टैक्स रिफॉर्म संभव हो पाया। ये केंद्र और राज्यों के प्रयासों का नतीजा था कि देश दर्जनों टैक्सों के जाल से मुक्त हुआ और पूरे देश के लिए एक जैसी व्यवस्था बनी। वन नेशन वन टैक्स का सपना साकार हुआ। नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है। कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है। इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे। हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा। देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे।
So the Prime Minister there saying that he has huge expectations from the MSMEs. We have Santosh Mehrotra, economist, joining us as well on this broadcast. And he said that when India was at the peak of its prosperity, MSMEs were its foundation. We need to re-achieve that. He also spoke about swadeshi and said that it will increase the prosperity. Santosh Mehrotra, according to you, why was this address of the nation critical at this point? Prime Minister says that this is about some kind of utsav which is going to begin. He has called it GST Bachat Utsav.
Well, I don't know whether it was critical. The point is he was simply reminding us that tomorrow it goes into effect. So he's just reminding us that a reform of a tax which was introduced 8 years ago, which subsumed within it 17 different taxes of the center and the states, is finally being rationalized. Because countries which have a GST, practically none of them have the kind of rate system that we've had. It's not just that we had 5 rates, we had actually 45 rates given all the various exemptions. And I think there is plenty of evidence about that. So yes, it is a matter of celebration that finally good sense has prevailed within the government.
Okay. S.C. Garg also joins us. He is former Economic Affairs Secretary. S.C. Garg, the emphasis again on MSMEs. This is a crucial segment. But the question really is that what will be their response so far? MSMEs, as Prime Minister said, were the foundation when the first generation GST reforms had kicked in.
See, the first generation reforms in 2017, when the GST was introduced, a lot of informal sector enterprises, the MSMEs were actually in the informal and organized sector. They were outside the tax net, most of them. And for them, this was a major change. Some of them, or quite few of them, about 30, 40 lakhs of them, came into the formal GST network. It was a very difficult experience for them initially because their model of working earlier was some kind of tax arbitrage, very informal, not maintaining the record kind of things which the GST system required. So it was tough for them. There was a lot of opposition. It has now settled down more or less. In this round of reform, to my mind, except the fact that the rates for their products have been brought down to mostly from 12% to 5%. Not many of them are in 18% slab, or earlier were in 28% slab. For them, this allows their products to be sort of priced somewhat cheaper, but not much, because they won't have many of the input taxes credits as well, because in 5% tax bracket, hardly any of the products have input credits. So how much it will benefit the MSMEs, I think is for us to watch. We'll have to wait for seeing that happen. I think it's not a very unblemished or unstinted kind of support or package for the MSMEs.
Okay, and he clubbed the direct tax reform which came in 6 months ago, and indirect, which is coming in the form of GST. Mr. Mehrotra, how do you look at that clubbing where he says that this is some kind of a double bonanza which has come in for the middle class?
Look, the point, I don't know about double bonanza. Let's just focus on the main dimensions of this reform. The main dimensions of the reform are, as Mr. Garg just now pointed out, is that the vast majority of products, excepting a few, are now within the 5 and 18% rates.
Yes.
Earlier, there were a multiplicity of rates, as I was saying in my previous intervention, a total of 45 rates, and formerly 5 rates. So now we have mainly 2 plus the high rate on so-called sin taxes and some others. So that's what it is. Now, of course, it is true that the government is going to take a loss, and this, a total the government says of 48,000 crores. It may well be more than that over the course of the full financial year. We shall wait to see, and we shall also wait to see whether demand picks up such that it actually offsets the decrease in government revenues. So that's what we would like to see happen, that government revenues rise. Because let's just remind ourselves that 8 years ago when the GST was introduced, the combined taxes which were then subsumed into GST were a certain percentage of GDP. Now, after that, they actually fell as a proportion of GDP. In other words, their contribution as a proportion of GDP, they fell, and they've only last year returned to the level that prevailed in 2016, the year prior to the introduction of the GST. So, I mean, the revenue collection record on this has also not been great, which is partly not so surprising given that the economy actually took a nosedive. It slowed every quarter from 2017 onwards, all the way till the beginning of the COVID lockdown. And in the COVID lockdown, the economy went into contraction. So MSMEs suffered very, very severely, very severely.
Yes.
And they've only the MSMEs have now returned to the number, slightly more than the number that prevailed in 2015-16. Government's own data shows this, the annual survey of enterprises in the unorganized sector, and I've done a detailed analysis of that. So it's good news that at least the number of enterprises has returned to that level. But the point is, it's 8 years lost in terms of all those MSMEs which suffered over that period when joblessness increased, which is the reason why consumption levels have been systematically low. And that's why household savings are low. Household savings are at their lowest level in about 8 years.
Yes.
The other two components of savings, government savings and corporate savings, are doing well, while household savings are not doing so well.
Okay. Chetan has also joined us, but before I bring in Chetan, S.E. Garg, how significant is the number which has been quoted by the Prime Minister of expected savings of 2.5 lakh crore from the income tax exemption limit raise, and of course about with regards to the GST reforms for average Indian taxpayers and the MSMEs?
I think this is very important. In this entire address, the one thing which I found to be closer to reality was this mention by the Prime Minister that the total sort of pass on or the savings of the people in the form of the income tax relief which was granted in the budget, and now the GST is about 2.5 lakh crore.
That's right.
We know that the income tax relief was about 1 lakh crore. Therefore, what it gives away now is that the GST reforms will cost about 1.5 lakh crores to the government. Unlike what has been stated so far, that's 48,000 crores or so. My own estimates are 2 lakh crores a year, but 1.5 lakh crore is closer to this. I think it will be very interesting to watch now that what is the impact of this. Clearly, if you take this 1.5 lakh crores or 2 lakh crores or so it's about 12,000 to about 18,000 crores of rupees loss every month, so to say. For last 3 months, the GST growth has been very low at about 6.5% to 7% compared to the last year, much less than the nominal GDP growth. Now, if this kind of tax hit is also taken, is it going to get into the negative territory, the growth, or the demand push which is likely to come can compensate? I don't think it is going to, in any case, bring 2x or 3x or 4x of the savings which the people are going to make. It cannot exceed 1x, and therefore the tax giveaway would actually cost the government more than what the people will get in the form of savings.
I want to understand also one more point from you, whether the expected boost in consumption demand because of the income tax rate cuts, which happened in the budget, has kicked in, and what does the evidence really suggest?
See, the evidence doesn't suggest that that is playing out. That's what I said. If you look at the last 3 months or 4 months of GST data, the growth, nominal growth in GST collections is only 6.5% to 7%. It's not evenly equal to the nominal GDP growth. Therefore, the income tax benefit, which was passed on with effect from 1st of April, doesn't seem to have resulted into higher consumption. That is not the reality. There is another angle also which we must keep in mind, that if you give away 1.5 lakh crores to 2 lakh crores of tax receipts to the people to spend, the government expenditure also comes down by an equal amount.
Okay.
Now, if that happens, it cancels out each other. Therefore, this kind of optimistic projections that the tax giveaway leads to very large consumption boost is not correct.
Okay. Chetan Bhutani, according to you, the big takeaway?
Maria, well, two clear things. It's more than just it meets the eye. First of all, I think Prime Minister made a very clear point and wanted the middle class, the new middle class, to come out and spend, because the government has to complete the deficit of about 48,000 crores, which it will have to do it very soon. Otherwise, GST numbers could go in for a toss. Secondly, what my sources initially told me was the fact that Prime Minister made this clarion call of Made in India and Local for Local, which we first broke exclusively on India Today, was because of the two to three ideal facts. First, of course, was the trade issues with US and, of course, geopolitical barriers. Secondly, with the developments at Chawar Port, Indian trade is definitely bound to have a negative growth and a negative effect. So Prime Minister reaching out to the people of India, saying that come out, spend, and of course, make in India to make India self-reliant as soon as possible.
Okay. Professor Mehrotra, what kind of price cuts do you expect in consumer goods from tomorrow? And to what extent, sir, can we expect this inflation rate to come down in the coming weeks?
See, the inflation rate is relatively low as it is, and I think you are pointing out product by product in your ticker as well as the mainstream, what is the reduction in the prices of the individual products. So look, we will, over the next 3 weeks, see a certain bump up as we see every year during the festival season of consumption. However, the real impact of the GST reduction will have to wait until this 3-week period is over. Okay. We will wait to see how it plays out over the rest of the financial year, and then we can come and talk again. And I'm in complete agreement, and I think that's exactly what I was also hinting at with Mr. Garg, that neither he nor I am expecting a massive jump or increase in consumption. Because you see, households are seriously indebted. They have taken gold loans and retail debt, or retail borrowings from the banks are the biggest source of lending for Indian banks for the last, longest time. Private investment is not picking up. In other words, corporates are not borrowing in order to invest. It is retail investing which has gone up, and retail investing has gone up so much. Retail borrowing has gone up so much that the RBI has had to pass strictures upon the banks. Control. The RBI has told the banks, you have to bring down the rising share of retail debt in your total debt, total extended loans, as soon as possible. You cannot continue on this path. So there's a consumption demand crisis here, which is showing up clearly in reduced household savings as a proportion of GDP, which I talked about. And the foundational reason for that is that jobs are not growing. And it's not just jobs are not growing, real wages are not growing. If real wages are not growing, jobs are not growing in the non-farm sector, while jobs are growing in the farm sector, that's no good for consumption increase.
Okay. SC Garg, here is Professor Mehrotra talking about inflation rates which have come down. Then can we expect RBI to cut rates further, and also can we look forward to lower EMIs in the coming weeks or months?
See, I think this assessment is correct that the inflation rate will further go down. It's already low. Various analysis suggests that the GST cuts touch about 25 to 30% of the goods basket. And if their cost comes down, definitely the inflation impact would be further more positive. Now, if it comes to, let us say, 2% or 2.5%, though there is a factor which we must always remember, that in India, the inflation is not related to the real factors like what is the RBI rate or interest rate and all. It's more related to the weather patterns, the losses on the agricultural products, food products, and things like that. At this moment, they appear to be favorable. So I see that in a couple of months, for next couple of months, the inflation should be quite subdued. This gives a perfect reason for the RBI to cut their interest rate further. I think they are still very high in the economy. There is no need for that. But there is a problem which the RBI has. If you cut the interest rate down, it impacts the incomes of the banks. It also impacts the financial sector stability, in the sense that today about 60 to 70% of the interest rate on housing loans and others are linked to the repo rate. If they reduce the rate, they have to reduce the interest rate, the charge from the people as well. Their incomes go down. So all these factors go into it. To my mind, there is a full justification for doing it, but I don't think RBI is ready to reduce it further at this moment.
Fine enough. Thank you so much. This consumption demand story is perhaps the big story here, which is emerging from this. Professor Mehrotra and SC Garg, pleasure having you on my show. Thank you so much for joining us.